Hello everyone, welcome to our audiobook channel. If you enjoy this story or want to hear more exciting content, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. Your feedback helps us improve and bring even more captivating stories. Enjoy listening. Chapter 1 Don't Pretend to be Friends. Chapter 1 Don't Pretend to be Friends. Thank you for using our product. Scanning, please wait. Scanning completed. ID SH13313, certified. Name, Feng Bujue. Device, standard single-player cabin, model NL2055. No abnormal external hardware detected. Heart and lungs function normally. Nerves connection is ready. Please select connection mode. Non-sleep mode selected. Adjusting. Adjusted. Please confirm to start the game right away or return to the previous menu. Program started. Your game will start in 10 seconds. After the countdown, Feng Bujue immediately entered the game. He stood at a place that seemed like an elevator booth, but no buttons were to be seen. There was a 32-inch touchscreen on the right wall, and opposite to the doors was a full-length wall mirror attached on the wall, where players could see their entire bodies. Feng Bujue eyed his image in the mirror. He was a high-pixel 3D computer graphics character now, wearing a black long-sleeve t-shirt and trousers, nothing fancy. The face of this character was almost identical to his real appearance. The height was less than 6 feet, bird nest messy hair covered the soft, feminine contours of his face. With the aid of the 4th-generation optical computing technique, the player's nervous system would be connected to the game directly, which allowed them to realistically experience everything with their 5 senses. However, the graphics of the game were still in 3D. It still didn't have a feel of reality. Welcome to the login space. The following games are all Dream Incorporated's products. Please select. When the voice of the system echoed in his ears, icons appeared on the touch screen next to him. Players could then choose the games that they wanted from there. Geez, they've created the whole login thing for just one game. Did they imply that there will be more to expect? Feng Bujue thought as he pressed the icon of the only game there, Thriller Paradise. Players have to be over 16 years old to register. Players with heart diseases, mental disorders or related diseases are not recommended to play this game. The system did not only display this paragraph on the screen, but instead said it out loud. Afterwards, 3 different buttons appeared on the screen, including confirm registration, cancel and the last one, with an I dash. Catching link, was general disclaimer. Mental disorders. Feng Bujue thought, I'd better take a look then. 10. He then selected the third icon, causing a maze of words to be displayed on the screen. From the tiny size of the scroll bar on the right, this general disclaimer was really lengthy. When normal people play games and they see something like terms and conditions or explanations, 80% of them would close the menu or skim over it, scrolling to the end and selecting the agree button. But Feng Bujue wasn't a normal person. He was 24 years old this year. Writing was his profession, which was all about detective novels. He often told people that he was addressed as the artist or the great author whenever asked what he did for a living, but this wasn't his most important feature. And now, it's time to talk about his abnormalities. First, the reason why he played this game was to treat his illness. Of course, this wasn't internet addiction, but a real disorder. Feng Bujue had found something was wrong with his body around 2 months ago, and 3 days after, he confirmed that he had lost his fear. No matter how scary the footage or the sound was, it couldn't stimulate him. He had begun to watch horror/thriller movies and read novels non-stop in an attempt to use his own imagination to scare himself, yet it all turned out to be useless. It seemed like a gate in his brain was sealed. He understood the jump scare or the thrilling details of the movies, but he didn't feel any fear. For such reason, he decided to pay a visit to a hospital nearby. Well, it would have been alright if he hadn't gone there, but he had, and they eventually found big trouble. MRI scanning showed a blurred shadow in his brain. Near the amygdala, it could possibly be a tumor. Later on, Feng Bujue had visited many famous hospitals in the country, but still, they couldn't give him an exact diagnosis. However, there were various treatments. After having undergone numerous tests and through an innumerable amount of excellent doctors, Feng Bujue understood one thing: his disorder would definitely be recorded in history. Being the first patient, he had two things to consider. The first one, whose name his disorder would be named after, and the second one, after he died, whether he should donate his brain for medical studies or not. It would be his contribution to science. 2 months had gone by and the blurred spot in his brain hadn't changed a bit. No anomalies, no reduction or disappearance for his sake. The other parts of his body were normal, which even seemed to be much healthier. He had then weighed the pros and cons. After that, he decided to give up on the treatment and discharge himself from the hospital. The loss of fear was the only symptom of this disease. Moreover, no one could be sure that he would die because of it or when would he die. Geez, just let the fate do its best. One day, Feng Bujue randomly saw the advertisement of the Thriller Paradise closed beta version. The advertisement read, "Break the traditional tactics. Bring up the feeling of fear and hopelessness. Fear is like your shadow, chasing after you. We promise to bring an extreme experience you have never had before." He then studied the rules of the game and watched a detailed advertising video, which was labeled to scare the SHT out of the kids. And, he found a link which said, "Selling Game Cabin, giving away closed beta's account." Closed beta is a test version with a limited number of gamers. When the game producer completes this stage, they will release the open beta version, which is also the official release. There was something weird there, but Feng Bujue just wanted to play to take a look, mostly to try to get scared. He just hoped that fortune would shine on him. By putting himself in a horror environment, perhaps it could stir him up to find his fear again. Of course, this rare symptom of mental disorder had proven that Feng Bujue was a patient, but it wasn't only the tumor that made him not a normal person. In fact, before he even got sick, he wasn't an ordinary person either. He could even be described as a freak. Feng Bujue had many strange features. They were not sort of OCDs, too, but they were weird and unfathomable. First, it was his reading addiction. Other people would find it weird to explain his thirst of reading. For example, he could read all words that was written on a shampoo bottle, or the manuals of the household electrical devices. In fact, he didn't even spare the labels of his clothes. If there were anybody or anything that had formed a relationship of pros and cons with Feng Bujue, they would automatically collect all information related to that person or that object instinctively. Furthermore, besides his reading skill, he had a brilliant memory. It wasn't as extreme as Zhang Song 3, but what he had seen, no matter how long after that, he could remember at least 60%. Oh, this clause isn't much different to that of the other games. Feng Bujue had just spent 2 minutes to finish the clause of hundreds of thousands of words. Those lines of the 6th paragraph are somehow special. He cocked his head as his left palm held his right elbow. The index and middle fingers of his right hand, which were placed on his forehead, slightly slid along his nose bridge, his familiar gesture when he was thinking. It means, if the players die because of a heart attack or mental disorder, the company will not take any responsibilities. He mumbled to himself, as if he had jumped to a conclusion. Feng Bujue didn't spare the case that this was a trick of the Dream Inc. He had read about the design of this game on the home page, and the most attractive feature of the game was the fear value. The optical computing program and the game cabin would depend on the stats of heartbeats, pulses and neurons reactions of the player to calculate the degrees of fear. During the game, if the player's fear value had exceeded the limit, the nervous connection would be forced to quit, immediately ending the game. In case that player had a serious health problem such as breathing problem, or the heart stops beating, the cabin would instantly notify the emergency unit. Anyway, all the connections with the player's nervous systems were designed to be linked with the police and emergency units. The chances that some players would be scared to death wasn't big. After he had selected to continue, Feng Bujue heard another notification from the system. You have logged in for the first time. Please enter the name of your character. A blank space appeared on the screen, where he was supposed to enter his name. Also, there were some restriction terms. For example, the name should have more than 4 characters, and no vulgar words were allowed. In the age of the optical computing generation, this restriction had become more accurate. The system intelligence and calculations had reached the peak that gave people goosebumps. It just needed a glossary, even with a common term to allow for its calculation and prevent any violations. Such names like Bota Jingshen, 4, or FUC followed by some symbols and then the letter K, etc., those tricks were useless to the 4th generation optical computer. Dozens of years ago, people had been worrying that artificial intelligence would strike back and enslave human beings. However, up to now, there were no trustworthy information supporting this theory. In conclusion, optical computer was pretty smart. How smart it was, the later parts of this novel would mention. Verified. Feng Bujue is available. Please confirm. Feng Bujue's given name was rare. Of course, it would be available to use. However, he had replaced Feng by Feng. On one hand, he didn't want to use his real name. On the other hand, it was sarcasm that he gave himself. 5. After he had confirmed, the system notified, tutorial for new players will start soon. Players can only play the tutorial once. Scenario will be randomly chosen. When you finish the tutorial, you will receive corresponding rewards. Please be guided that the results of the new player tutorial will not affect the original attributes of your character, only the rewards will differ. If you skip the tutorial because of the high fear value, actively disconnect or leave the cabin. The next time you log in, you cannot continue the previous scenario. The system will provide you with a new one. After having listened to the reminder, Feng Bujue touched the confirm button. Unexpectedly, when his finger just touched the screen, the entire elevator suddenly became pitch black. In the next second, a voice arose, but it wasn't the robotic one as that of the system. At this moment, the voice sounded more like an old witch. Welcome to Thriller Paradise. As the sound reverberated, the elevator suddenly shook without any prior signs or indications. The interior of the box was so dark that one couldn't even see their own fingers. It started to move, then it gradually descended. 1. Amygdala, part of limbic system responsible for the response and memory of emotions, especially fear. 2. Obsessive compulsive disorders. 2. Zhongsong, died 213, was an advisor to the warlord Liu Zhang during the late Han Dynasty period of Chinese history. He was famous for his excellent memory as he could remember everything he had placed his eyes on. 3. Bota Jingshen, lit, big phallus, deep cave. It is a way of puns using similar sounds. The original phrase is actually a locution, which means wide-ranging and profound knowledge. 4. Feng, the MC's name, means seal or close off, while the other Feng means crazy. Feng Bujue, his nickname in the game, means unidentified mental disorder. Chapter 2: The Bloody Corpse. The few seconds of sudden change could be considered a hello before the new player tutorial. If he were a normal person, when darkness fell without a sign followed by the terrifying voice, he should be startled and scared. The feeling of free falling only existed for a short while, but it was enough to scare the players, making their hearts beat at a frantic pace. However, Feng Bujue was calm. In fact, he didn't even flinch. After the short trembling, the elevator started to descend at a regular speed. Then, a window popped up in front of Feng Bujue's eyes. The game's menu only appeared in the player's vision. As such, it couldn't light up the surroundings. Reading the menu was individually private. When a player is reading their menu, even if there are other players standing next to him, they wouldn't know whether he was considering the options or just mooning over there. The system didn't use voice notifications, but instead Feng Bujue saw a reminder in his menu. You can open this menu anytime. You can find your attributes, status, equipment, and items from here. At this moment, Feng Bujue saw that his entire menu was almost covered with a gray shadow indicating that they were locked. When the notification disappeared, the top right corner glowed, and there appeared 3 same-sized bars, similar to the energy bar. After which, an arrow appeared, pointing to the first bar, which was a green energy full bar. Another description appeared. This is your survival value displayed in percentage. Specific value is not visible. When the survival value becomes 0%, your character is considered dead. Current survival value, 100%. Abnormal status, none. The arrow moved to the second bar. This one was also green, but the indicator there was in digits. This is your stamina value. The specific value could be seen here. Actions like running, hiking, carrying heavy objects, fighting and using skills will consume this value. You can take rest or use other items to recover it. Current stamina value, 100/100. The third bar, the one which caught Feng Bujue's attention the most, was empty. This is your fear value, displayed in percentage. When your fear value gets over 100% for more than 3 seconds, you will be forced to quit the game as your character dies. Current fear value, 0%. Since he had read the basic information on the website before, Feng Bujue just took a glance to finish the description. He then waited for the other sections of the menu to open, but the menu automatically closed after 10 seconds, so he had to open it again. Unfortunately, those gray sections didn't change. Obviously, the tutorial for new players wasn't just reading the description and getting used to the user interface in this dark elevator. If not, the system wouldn't say that the tutorial will be interrupted when the fear value is high. The elevator soon stopped, but the darkness still remained. Feng Bujue could suddenly hear himself breathing. The light inside the elevator flickered on for a second then off again. However, within just 1 second, the footage that could make people jump and cry in fear appeared on Feng Bujue's retina. I bet you still remember that one of the elevator's walls is a full-length mirror. At the moment the light flashed, Feng Bujue saw 2 people in the mirror. One was him, definitely. The other was, with a glance, Feng Bujue could confirm that this was a creature standing upright with blood all over its body. Geez, just let it be dark, why show people slyly like that? Just pretend I didn't see it then. If it were someone else, they would scream, collapse on the ground, crouch to the corner, or they would go crazy and start to attack that bloody figure. However, Feng Bujue still stood there with his unchanged complexion. He mumbled, "Oh, if it is the tutorial, it will not put the player in a deadly situation right at the beginning. At most, players have to spend some health. Or get scared. Then, something would happen to let the game continue." After he had come up with this thought, there was a light that beamed into the elevator booth, which rapidly expanded. When the door slid open, the smell of something rotten and moldy stormed his nostrils. Outside of the elevator was a straight corridor decorated with a wooden ceiling and a wallpaper. The patterns on the wallpaper were really bizarre as they looked like realistic human eyes. The floor was covered with green mats, and there were no doors or windows on both sides of the wall. There were some dim wall lamps at a distance from one another. The corridor seemed to be way long ahead, so those wall lamps far away looked as small as grains of rice. Nevertheless, his vision couldn't reach over 20 meters, the further places were still hidden in the dark. He needed to get there to have a better view. A normal player would worm his way out of the elevator even before the doors opened completely. Feng Bujue, however, didn't hurry. To him, that dreary corridor wasn't a better choice for a safer place than this elevator. If the surrounding weren't that dark, he would turn around to see what was standing next to him. When Feng Bujue just turned his head to watch, he immediately saw 10 bloody fingers clawing at his face. He then retracted his neck to duck, squatted before rolling out of the elevator. When he turned around again, he finally saw the shape of that figure. That was a corpse without skin. The muscles on its body looked like the human anatomy model in a health clinic, however, it was still alive and bleeding. The elevator's doors slowly slid shut. The bloody corpse cocked its head and beamed something that looked like a smile while its eyes were staring at Feng Bujue. When the doors were about to close, it stretched one arm out, then swayed out of the elevator. Logically, I should run now. Feng Bujue mused, but this dude doesn't seem to be strong. Perhaps I should try to hit it? The moment the bloody corpse stepped out of the elevator, however, it roared with an immense vigor as it hit the wall of the corridor. The thick wooden wall under the wallpaper was broken, and an intrusion of cockroaches then flooded out from the break. Maybe not. When Feng Bujue caught a glimpse of this, he turned around and immediately ran away. It was the tutorial, so of course, the main idea was to lead the players to continue the game, not to kill them instantly. In fact, the bloody corpse did that to give the player a short period of time to run away. The system also predicted some possibilities, such as the player would stand transfixed in fear, or he would try to kill that bloody corpse when he saw it under the light. In those cases, the corpse's move could push the player who was standing still to crawl away from the scene. Also, it could eliminate the intention to fight against the bloody corpse from some pugnacious badass. Of course, if he got scared the SHT out of himself that he couldn't get up or just wanted to risk his life, the game would be over. Then, the system would generate a new tutorial. First, there's an 80% chance that I couldn't break that wall. Second, even if I could break that wall, there would be no way out. Third, if I fight this monster, I would die young. Good. Feng Bujue calculated his chances to get the situation clearer. It seemed in this new player tutorial, he didn't have many options. After he had run for a long distance, Feng Bujue saw the other end of the corridor. A wooden thick door stood there. He tried to turn the knob, and it did open. There was no time for him to weigh the dangers behind that door, so he just entered and then thought about it later. The corpse was right behind him, he couldn't waste time. At this moment, Feng Bujue abruptly understood that the exact thing to do was to run away right when the elevator's door slid open. Staying there for a while just shortened his time, causing him to rush his next move. He slithered in and closed the door. Inside, he found a steel latch. He immediately grabbed it and locked the door. Almost at the same time, that thing outside started banging the door. Feng Bujue didn't bother about it anymore as he turned around to observe the new place. This was a square room, around 16 square meters. The interior didn't have any furniture, and the only notable things in this room were a lamp hanging on the wall and 2 doors the bloody corpse was banging on. One, and the other door was on the opposite wall. Feng Bujue came to the only escape door in the room. He pulled the knob and found it was locked. He tried to kick the lock open, but it seemed to be useless. Obviously, he didn't use enough force. He then guessed that he had to try several times more. In the next second, the menu suddenly popped up in his vision, and a gray section was unlocked. It displayed a digit, which was, at the moment, 0. This is your skill value displayed in number. Skill value can be used as currency and accumulated along with the player's actions. If your deeds can enhance the process of the game, you will be awarded with skill value. Current skill value, 0. Giving the reminder on the skill value now could be an implication for a shortcut somewhere. Now, Feng Bujue was looking at his fear value on the menu. 0%, nothing had been changed. Feng Bujue sighed, then turned around to look at the door which the bloody corpse was banging. The latch had started to deform, and it seemed like it couldn't hold any longer. Such pressure from a monster, which could storm in any minute and kill you, could make someone who was watching this game become anxious. However, our man was still calm as an ice cube. Feng Bujue scrutinized the room one more time. This almost empty room indeed had some hints. There was a spot up there in the corner, where the wallpaper was rubbed off. It wasn't easy to see with a glance, but looking closely, this detail was obvious. Feng Bujue tiptoed to reaching that spot, then ripped off the wallpaper there. He then saw a symbol drawn with blood. That symbol included a loop connected to a branch of a tree, which had the shape of a key. At this time, a roar came along with the sound of wooden material breaking from behind him. Feng Bujue turned around to see one claw of the bloody corpse waving at him after it had broken a bowl-sized hole on the door. He didn't know whether it could remove the latch with its intelligence. This meant that the corpse was about to get into the room. No matter whether he wanted to kick the door or to solve the puzzle, time was running out. Feng Bujue hurried to nudge the wooden sheet that had the blood symbol, and a real pain suddenly came to him. However, that wooden sheet was brittle, it was broken in just one hit. He had expected to see a flow of insects streaming out from there, but he got nothing except a mist of dust. A small space hid behind that wooden sheet, with a key laid inside. When Feng Bujue picked up the key, the menu popped up again, and another section was unlocked. You found an item. Because your bag and the items bar hasn't been unlocked, you can only choose between holding it in your hand or throwing it away. Then he saw the item's properties on the section that was just unlocked. Name, rusted key. Type, consumable item. Quality, normal. Function, to open the door. Being able to bring out of the scenario, no. Remark, I think you know how to use it. Feng Bujue thought that the remark was malicious, but he didn't have time to think more. After he had schemed over the item's properties, he closed the menu, then ran to the door. When he unlocked the door, the key disappeared. At the same time, the voice of the system that long hadn't echoed suddenly arose. You received 30 points of skill value. Notification will only appear one time. Later, you can check your skill value on the main menu. Feng Bujue had no time to check things that he couldn't use for now. He continued moving forward. Behind the door were some stone steps leading upstairs. The walls were made of stone, and there was no ceiling. He could see the sky at night now. The moonlight was shining on these steps, making them as luminous as snow. Too bad he couldn't escape using the walls. The walls were high with a glossy surface, and a distance of over 2 meters separated the two walls. Apparently, those were to prevent him from climbing up there. While stepping on the stair, Feng Bujue spent some time to check his stamina value. It was reduced to 24/100 now. He started to calculate in his mind. After leaving the elevator, I've run hundreds of meters, then I kicked the door, broke the wall, and I'm climbing stairs now. Those actions must have consumed 3/4 of my physical value. This consumption speed was much faster than what he had calculated. Also, his survival value had been reduced to 98%. It seemed that the system had considered the fact that he was injured from his nudging action. Just 5 seconds after Feng Bujue had opened the door, the bloody corpse had broken the door and chased after him, and now, it was laughing sinisterly. The laughter that echoed in his ears was so thrilling, however. Feng Bujue was totally emotionless even with a derangement of this degree. What stood at the end of the stairs was a cliff, where a giant sword was pierced into the wall. Under the moonlight, the blade was reflecting a gloomy, cold light. When Feng Bujue gazed at the sword, the bloody corpse somehow figured out something as it wildly sped up to him. The distance of dozens of meters was shortened in an instant. Feng Bujue was running like a hare because he didn't want to be screwed when he was just about to finish the round. When he stumbled to the sword, he immediately used both of his hands to grab it before pulling it out. Unexpectedly, the weapon was pretty light, not as heavy as it looked. He turned around and saw the bloody corpse was approaching. The mournful wail pierced directly into his eardrums as a pair of bloody claws snatched towards him. Chapter 3 Intermission 1. Actions somehow happen faster than words. Feng Bujue immediately slashed his sword. Since he had no fear at all, he could strangely maintain his calmness, and his reflexes wasn't affected at all. As he slightly swayed aside to dodge the sharp claws of the bloody corpse, his sword horizontally severed the corpse. Feng Bujue surprisingly saw the sword cut through the corpse just like it was cutting tofu. The corpse's torso was cut open, and the blood that gushed out spurted all over his face. Feng Bujue could taste a light, salty and viscous fluid in his mouth. It was even warm. Although this was fabricated, the disgusting feeling was real. The bloody corpse was cut and it howled in pain. Its body, from the cut, started to melt into a pulp of flesh and pus onto the ground. At this time, Feng Bujue finally had a chance to look at the sword's properties. Name: bloody corpse must die. Type: weapon. Quality: good. Attack power: fair. Attributes: none. Effect: could dissolve bloody corpses when striking them. Being able to be brought out of the scenario: no. Remark: this sword is an early work of the legendary dwarf blacksmith or in his collections, the All Must Die. One day, a cunning goblin businessman had used some bottles of Urquatu, 1, to exchange for this sword. Half a month later, Orcast the Goblin Must Die. After Feng Bujue had spent several seconds to read the item's properties, the system reminder arose. You have completed the new player tutorial. Automatic teleportation will begin in 60 seconds. While the system was counting down 60 seconds, another section was unlocked in his menu. The new option was immediately teleport. Feng Bujue touched that option, and his body instantly turned into a white light and teleported out of the scenario. A white light flashed and he was suddenly in that elevator again. The giant sword, bloodstains, and dust had all disappeared. Everything stayed the same inside the elevator as when he had logged in the game. The light was on, and there was only him in the booth. That period of roughly 10 minutes had passed quickly, just like a nightmare. Scenario completed. Calculating for rewards. EXP, 70. Game coins, 700. Item/equipment, none. Complete/quest, 0/0. Special quest, hidden quest completed, 0. Worldview unlocked, none. Fear value surged, 0 time. Highest fear value, 0%. Average fear value, 0%. Your fear rating, a whole sack of guts. Receive 1 additional reward. Please select later. Skill value, 30. EXP increased by skill value, 30. Game coins, 300. Scenarios bonus, new player's luggage, 1. Calculation completed. Please continue. Those information were displayed on the screen, but the system's voice sounded again. You've reached level 2. Stamina value has increased. Current stamina value, 200/200. Right then, Feng Bujue saw the specialties tab was unlocked. There were 6 types of specialties, but 5 of them were still locked. The grating beside them was N/A. Only the common was glowing with his current grade, which was F for now. Specialties were the most important settings in the thriller paradise, which was used to assess players' competence. Feng Bujue still remembered that it was mentioned in the game's introduction. The meanings of the grade were as follows. N/A, none, a complete blockhead, unable to use the skill. F, very poor, almost zero. When players reach this grade, they can activate the skills with a success rate of 20%. While the screen was displaying his rewards, the door slid open again. However, there was no corridor outside, but a square room with metal walls. This room was at least thrice bigger than the elevator, lit up by a light installed on the ceiling. There were 2 hollow glass columns in the room, but nothing was inside those pillars. Feng Bujue didn't have any comment on his fear value. His fear was quantified with digits, but he saw only 3 zeros there. The fear rating didn't bother him much. The introduction mentioned that after the player completed one scenario, the system would use his fear value to give him one of 5 grades, an entire sack of guts, fine courage, freaking out, shaking like a leaf, and body and soul separated. They didn't think that a case like his, which all values were zeros, would possibly happen. Or else, the designer had to add one more degree of grade, which was extremely daring. To the new player tutorial, Feng Bujue had completed it marvelously. Because the survival value and the stamina value didn't affect the final calculation, accomplishing the scenario without shedding a hair or almost being dead were not much different, as the rewards would be the same. Feng Bujue's reward was good enough, but he didn't feel happy. He sighed, then came to the glass pillars. A pop-up menu appeared. Please select your type of luggage. The screen then displayed 2 types of bag. One was a backpack that one could carry on their back, and the other one was a waist pack. After considering for a few seconds, Feng Bujue chose the first one. Then, the light started to condense, forming the bag amidst the hollow glass column. When the light had finally turned into the real object, the front of the glass column slid open, and he then stretched his arm to grab the bag. At the same time, his luggage tab and equipment tab were finally unlocked. Your luggage is a space for storage. Currently, its capacity is 10 items max. As long as you could put the items into the bag, it could keep them. To put living creatures into the bag, you have to tame and control them first. Special remarks: player cannot get in the bag, please don't try it. From now on, you can check your equipment from the equipment tab. Everything you can use is considered equipment. There is no limit on the total number of your equipment. For example, your right hand is holding a saber, and your left hand is holding a stick, while both of your hands are hugging a tiger. Your clothes are not your equipment. It's impossible to take them off or to destroy them. You can only change your costumes. Settings at the login space. Costumes can be purchased at shops. Although it mentioned shops, but currently, there was nothing to buy. In closed beta version, players could only wear the default costumes. In this age, many game producers wanted to take more benefits as they put the shops into service when the test version was just 70% completed. It was possible to buy costumes, weapons, skin colors, blood, mana, etc. Some producers were despicable enough to send their henchmen to visit their rivals' websites, often to market their products, especially rare and precious weapons or pets. However, Dream Incorporated's strategy was different from them all. The sales target in the testing stage focused only on the consumption of hardware. When they had released closed beta version, the game was already 95% completed. When the 4th generation of optical computing technique had been recognized and adopted, players didn't need to check for bugs since they had the almighty AI's calculating ability. Thus, the main target of closed Beta version was to promote the purchase of the Thriller Paradise's game cabin, model NL 2055. To virtual items and economic transactions, Dream Incorporated had a strict policy to control. They didn't create the official website for the sole purpose of selling items, and, more than that, they also hid all the shops in the game. It brought difficulties for gamers who wanted to make some good deals. This kind of confidence was close to arrogance. Dream Incorporated's managers seemed to think that the game's closed beta version would succeed instantly. Money could wait, and in this stage, they only needed to increase the number of players and create their reputation. Please select extra bonus. Random equipment that suits your level. 2,000 coins. 80 EXP. When he reached the next glass column, this popped up in front of him. Feng Bujue thought, today is the first day the closed beta version has been released. Money would be useless in this period, EXP. He glanced at the menu. He was at level 2 now. The EXP required to level up was 0/200, and this meant the third option was 40% of the requirements to level up. His level was still low now, so this option wouldn't benefit him much. Then, he decided to take the equipment. After he had selected, the light inside the glass column shone again, then something appeared, a stone. Feng Bujue was dazed. The first thought that appeared in his mind was that it should be some sort of magical stone or equipment. When he grabbed the stone, its properties were displayed. Name, a stone. Quality, trash. Attack power, feeble. Effects, none. Remarks, this is a stone, whose shape is not followed by any regulations. It can be seen everywhere. Sometimes, people would pick it up to use it as a weapon. Although it can be brought in and out of any scenario, people will throw it away after using it. No one would put it in the bag or always hold it in their hands. The empty room then was filled with Feng Bujue's indignant cry. This is fraudulent. 1. Erkuatu, literally, second pothead, i.e. second distillation, also known as Chinese white liquor, is a Chinese alcoholic beverage. It is a type of baijiu made from sorghum. The name second distillation indicates its level of purity. It is a clear, potent spirit and takes 6 months to produce. Chapter 4 Intermission 2. Feng Bujue disconnected, opened the cabin, sat up and exhaled. It was noon now, and sunlight was shining beautifully outside. Feng Bujue lived alone in a rented room at the 13th floor, the highest floor of a building. His parents understood that they had no chance to take their POV in this novel. They had received the compensation from the author, San Tianliang Xiao, angrily, and passed away a few years ago, leaving our MC lonely here. Because I, the author, didn't want to be bothered thinking about 2 other names for them, I had to let them go to Shangri-La right at the beginning of the story. Tisk tisk, this is what we call, when you help people, you shouldn't disclose your name. Feng Bujue glared at the clock, and he found out that he had just played the game for 15 minutes. In non-sleep mode, the ratio between the time in Thriller Paradise and the real time was 1/2. In simple words, he had been in the game for 30 minutes. Besides, in sleep mode, the nervous connection was deeper, and thus, the ratio of time could be up to 1/10. There's a saying that reads, there is no time in dreams. If the players had played for the entire duration of their slumber, they could play for 80 hours non-stop. Of course, this meant they had been dreaming for 8 hours continuously. They would surely have a headache when they get up the next morning. The manual said that players shouldn't play for over 4 hours in sleep mode. Since Feng Bujue had read this, he memorized it all. At this time, Feng Bujue got up from the cabin. It wasn't that he needed to get some rest, but he and his friend had set up a date as they would play the game together. Today was the first day that Dream Incorporated had released the closed beta version. The server had opened since 8 a.m., but his friend was busy at that time, so Feng Bujue had to wait for him then. He just wanted to go online for a while to get used to the game control. He didn't want to upgrade his levels as it could create a gap between them. The question here is, does Feng Bujue have nothing to do in the morning? Yes, it's true, he doesn't have anything to do. I've told you that he was a detective novel author, bet some of you still remember that. Does this kid, the author sensei, have nothing to worry about even when he doesn't do anything? Apparently, nope. Feng Bujue was not famous, but just somewhat known. His works were not bad, and each was qualified enough to be published. There was a publisher that was working with him though. He was one of those authors that weren't rich but wouldn't be starved. He got 2 pages in a weekly magazine, where he posted an ongoing detective story. Every month, he had to submit the draft of the next month's contents. If the quality wasn't good enough, he still had time to rewrite it. The deadline was always by the end of the month since the royalties would be settled at the end of the same month. However, with this income, he could barely survive in S City. Thus, he had also written some series of detective novels, which would be published in the form of real books. After he had finished one book, he would have some savings, which could be considered as his small benefit. But why doesn't he have anything to do in the morning? This was easy to explain. Feng Bujue described his life and the inspiration for his works as follows: profuse inspiration, timely delivery, lavish delicacies, fine cakes, dry ideas, no words, plain soup, noodles then. Apparently, he was in his dry ideas stage, where he couldn't give birth to any words. This dude was very adaptive. When he couldn't write, what he forced himself to write was just crap. Thus, he just played for now, and he called it collecting inspiration. Consequently, waiting for that dude Feng Bujue to submit his draft on time was practically a myth. Whenever half of the month had passed by, the magazine's editor would hold the dagger while riding on the horse to knock on his door. And, his landlady, one hand holding the lutetium gold Tang Phoenix wings, the other hand holding his spare key, would open the door and slash him. Every time that day came, Feng Bujue was well prepared, arranging the formation, beating the battle drum, waiting for those two to fight for 300 rounds with him. Then, under the sky that would be covered with black clouds, he would spit out only one sentence: "I don't have money, I just have one sheet of draft. All right, I just blow up the story." Anyway, he was satisfied with his life. Now, we're going to talk about his friend. Birds of a feather flock together. So, how could it be impossible that Feng Bujue's friend was Mr. Right? 1. Yeah, he was indeed Mr. Right. This guy was named Wang Tanzi, Feng Bujue's closest friend. In local sayings, they were bosom friends. They had been classmates since kindergarten until they had graduated from high school. Then, Wang Tanzi had enrolled to a medical school, while Feng Bujue became a lazy ass in this society. How close their relationship was, we can describe in 2 ways, which are in supposition and reality. First, we will talk about reality. Why did Wang Tanzi choose medical school? It was because Feng Bujue had always wanted to follow Sherlock Holmes' step, and Sherlock Holmes' assistant is Dr. Watson. He was then determined to go to medical school. Now, it turns to suppositions. If Wang Tanzi were a girl, my novel would be changed drastically, since Miss Wang had probably given her virginity to Feng Bujue years ago. From that supposition and with what are rolling in your mind, I have to add this: don't worry, they are all males. Pretty straight ones. Wang Tanzi came from a rich family. How rich he was didn't matter, because it was enough for him to survive this life without working his butt off. He was handsome, a little bit taller than Feng Bujue. Well, 6 feet it is. He was a kind, humble, and tender guy, who was also a little bit soft-hearted, and didn't want to bother others. In short, it was hard to find his flaws. He totally contrasted with that old freak Feng Bujue. Wang Tanzi was a homie that everybody would love, while Feng Bujue, in other people's eyes, was always a couldn't give a damn type, moody, and even a young hoodlum. However, life always has miracles. Those two people could still be the closest friends. Noon had soon passed by. Feng Bujue had spent another hour to read information on the game's website. Since he had completed the newbie tutorial, it was easier for him to read and understand the contents of the game. Now, in the remaining time, he made noodles. It wasn't because he loved noodles, but it was because he had bought instant noodles to save money to buy flour. He was a freak indeed. He had calculated his food intake for each meal, as well as the minimum amount of food that he should eat to survive. Then he used his savings, which wasn't much anyway, to buy the game's cabin. The remaining amount was used to pay for the utilities and flour. If you are saying that he was an economical person, yeah, he had used the money that was beyond his limits to buy a luxury item. The new model of his cabin was surely a rip-off. If you are saying that he was extravagant, he had never let himself starve. Soon, it was twilight. Feng Bujue had eaten a bowl of plain noodles as it was his dinner. Wang Tanzi had called to tell him that he had logged in the game and finished the newbie tutorial. He had gotten scared, sweating in fear. After he had logged out, he called Feng Bujue while trying to get himself together. Feng Bujue thought, "I do admire you. What is cold sweat? It's been several months since I last had that." After a few words, they exchanged nicknames, and they logged in. 1. Gao Fusue, Internet slang, lit. Tall, rich, and handsome. Chapter 5 The Abandoned Hospital 1. Feng Bujue stepped into the cabin and logged in the game again, using non-sleep mode. Non-sleep and sleep mode have different servers. Those two servers are not interoperable. He selected the game at the login space, and this time, there were no pop-up notifications. The screen displayed only the menu and its options. For example, the social communication, which were the friend list and blacklist. Besides, there were many other introductions about the game. If players didn't have time to read the homepage, they could take a look here. If one consider about the time ratio, reading introductions here could help them save half of the time needed. Feng Bujue searched for Wang Tanzi's in-game name, added him, and sent a party invite to him. When Wang Tanzi joined the party, a list appeared on Feng Bujue's screen, which displayed their characters' names and levels. Feng Bujue, Level 2. Wang Tanzi, Level 1. Please select game mode for your party. There were options on the screen, namely, single-player training mode, multiplayer training mode, and single-player survival, normal. Since they were in a party, two options for single-player were gray, which meant they couldn't choose them. Juji, we can only choose the multiplayer training mode, Wang Tanzi spoke to Feng Bujue through the screen. From his login space, he could see the same information with what was displayed on Feng Bujue's screen. However, only the captain could select the options. Yeah, just get in there first, Feng Bujue replied, then selected the option. You've selected multiplayer training mode. Please confirm. Confirmed. Nervous connection adjusting. Generating scenario. Loading. Please wait. Feng Bujue's elevator booth started to move downwards. Then, a description appeared in front of him together with the system's reminder. You are about to enter the scenario with other players. This is the first time you have joined a multiplayer game, be sure you've read the following contents. Besides fighting mode, all attacks towards other players in other modes will be restricted. Players' intentions will not be interpreted into your character's actions. In scenarios of all modes, including fighting mode, all attacks towards your party members will be restricted. Players' intentions will not be interpreted into your character's actions. Any word that the system considers sensitive will be deleted. For example, politicians' names, cursing or using names of animals, plants, or other items in special contexts. Harassing behaviors such as mouthing, hand gestures, words, or drawings will be restricted. Players' intentions will not be interpreted into your character's actions. To any genders, all behaviors that the system considers sexual harassment, including all acts with this purpose or intentions, mentioned at Article B and C, will be restricted. Players' intentions will not be interpreted into your character's actions. Players will be forced to quit if such behaviors are repeated several times. Players' ID numbers will be listed in the system's blacklist and subjected to the top priority surveillance. Any behaviors that the system considers discrimination will be treated in accordance with Article D. Accounts of players who have violated Article D and E for several times will be deleted forever. Their ID numbers will also be locked, and they will never be able to use our products again. Considering the degree of the case, players' serious behaviors will be systematically recorded and submitted to the police department. For more information, please refer to the network public safety laws and derivative regulations. At this point, you may need some further explanations. Feng Bujue lived in 2055, in some sort of a parallel universe. In his world, sexual harassment and discrimination, to disable, minor ethnic and disadvantaged people, would be treated very strictly. Although it wasn't too bad that it deserved the death sentence, ID numbers of those who had violated the rules would be put in the blacklist of other social bodies. They would also receive proper punishments before that. Feng Bujue had chances to play many games, some with the helmet nervous system connection too. Basically, they all had the same regulations. As the optical computing technique was thriving constantly, fewer players could hack or violate the regulations. One could say that their intentions were choked to death before that. Loading completed. You are now in multiplayer training mode. In this mode, the system will not provide introductions on plots, Weltanschauung, or quests. Rewards for this mode include only EXP, no given skill value, and game coins. Rewards for this mode does not include completion rewards or bonus from fear value. Game has started. After the reminder had finished, the door slid open. Almost at the same time, he could hear the low, scary rumbling of something. This time, it was a male screech. Welcome to Thriller Paradise. The evil laughter that he brought afterwards could scare the SHT out of the players. There was a corridor again, however, this corridor looked spacious. The ground was covered with enameled tiles, and the walls were painted white. Besides, there were 3 other closed doors. The lighting system on the ceiling worked well, and it brightly illuminated the surroundings. The air was filled with the scent of disinfectant, and together with the decoration, it looked like a hospital. Feng Bujue walked out of the elevator booth, and the doors behind him closed immediately. Then, the image of the booth was twisted before it disappeared, leaving only a white wall. When he turned around, he saw another elevator that looked exactly like the elevator that he had just stepped out. Feng Bujue walked to that booth and peeped in. He suddenly heard a terrifying scream. Ah! Are you sick? Feng Bujue asked. Wang Tanzi gasped. I've just decided to walk out and you sneaked in, that freaked me out. Hey, can I ask you something? You've just gotten frightened, how is the fear value now? Feng Bujue was really curious. Wang Tanzi then looked at his menu. In Feng Bujue's eyes, this was as if Wang Tanzi was staring at some particular point in the space and he returned just several seconds after that. I'm calmed down now. The fear value has fluctuated at 3%, Wang Tanzi replied, but I don't know what it had hit at that time. Oh, is that because the fear value had increased then reduced instantly? Feng Bujue muttered, hey, what is the color of the fear value bar? Bright red. Oh, that's it? Brother Ju, your illness, is your fear value always 0%? Of course, Wang Tanzi knew that Feng Bujue was sick, but he had just graduated, so his hands were tied in this case. Also, it was because he was a doctor that he understood that Feng Bujue's disorder could only count on his fortune for now. If he was lucky, he could live for several years more, but if he had bad luck, he could die in just 3 minutes. Right, Feng Bujue deliberately replied. Then I have to count on you. If something happens, you have to protect me, said Wang Tanzi. Feng Bujue didn't answer him and just continued, before the scenario starts, we only have 3 minutes to prepare. If you don't get out of the elevator by now, the system will force you then. As Wang Tanzi heard him said that, he hurried to step out of the booth. Before the elevator vanished, Feng Bujue suddenly hauled out a stone from his bag then gave it to Wang Tanzi. Take it and lead the way. Wang Tanzi took the stone. After checking the item's properties, the corner of his mouth twitched. Ju, even if you got this out of the tutorial, there is no reason for you to keep it and bring it to the login space. You're just jealous of me, Feng Bujue answered without feeling ashamed at all. Wang Tanzi didn't speak to him anymore, he just threw the stone to the ground and hauled out a fruit knife about 5 inches from his bag. This one has better properties. How did you get equipment? Feng Bujue screamed. During their call, Wang Tanzi had told him that after he had finished the tutorial, he had been assessed as freaked out. The introduction on the website said that this level wouldn't receive any bonus. I picked it up in the scenario, Wang Tanzi said. Feng Bujue said, let me take a look. Wang Tanzi shrugged his shoulders then passed the knife to him. Name, fruit knife. Quality, rubbish. Being able to be brought out of the scenario, yes. Remarks, at least this stuff has a blade. Feng Bujue handed back the knife to Wang Tanzi then sighed sadly. It's karma. Stuff in my scenario were all things I couldn't bring out of there. So your stone is bonus after every calculation for rewards is done, Feng Bujue added, scary. Yeah. Lead the way. Wang Tanzi had no choice, he took the knife and walked forward. When the game began, he felt a little bit scared. He was just an ordinary person after all. And if one is an ordinary person, no matter how big their guts are, no one dares to be sure that they wouldn't get frightened. Fear is a normal reflex. Moreover, Thriller Paradise was a game based on the nervous system connection, as it made the feelings more real. There was a turn 20 meters in front of them, and on this path, all 3 doors were on their right. The wall on their left was white, blank and smooth. None of the familiar items, like the doctor's information, the layout of the building or basic health knowledge were hung on the wall. When they had just walked for 5 meters, not even having reached the first door, a baby girl's laughter arose. Then, numerous bloody handprints appeared on the white blank wall on their left and covered the entire wall to the other end of the corridor. Suddenly, they saw a shadow flash and slide into a corner far from them. Chapter 6 The Abandoned Hospital 2. Ju. Ju it's. Wang Tanzi stammered as his fear value surged. Although he had already calmed down after a few seconds, his fear value didn't return to the lowest point yet because his feeling of fear was piling up. It was held at 15% now. Feng Bujue's face was still emotionless as he spoke with a calm voice, I suppose we have 2 options now. What are those? Wang Tanzi could speak more words now. The first option, you take the knife and storm forward. At the corner, if you meet anything, just slash it, Feng Bujue answered, I got your back. I choose the second option. Wang Tanzi could suddenly talk smoothly, even when he didn't know what the second option was. Indeed, I prefer the second option. While he was speaking, Feng Bujue crossed over Wang Tanzi, reaching the door on their right and pulling the knob. Everyone knows that the doors in a thriller game are the sources of horror. No one ever knows what is waiting for them behind the doors. Moreover, there's something like, die instantly when the door opens. It could be said that at the moment he opened the door, the danger they were about to face was not less than that of chasing after the thing, which just disappeared at the corner. In this case, ordinary people would carefully open the door, duck their body and try to stay as far from the door as possible. Furthermore, they were ready to run away at any minute. Well, meanwhile, Feng Bujue had opened the door deliberately as if he was just opening his toilet door. He rushed to the door, opened it, and entered. Only the light from outside illuminated the room. The interior was horrible. This was a patient room, about 10 square meters. The closet in the corner and even the trash bin were upside down. There were many things scattered on the ground. All were debris, including bandages, toilet paper rolls, dirty cotton, and broken medicine jars, etc. The sheet on the bed was ragged. The scent of blood filled the whole room, and the light from outside revealed blood stains almost everywhere. Training mode will be invisible when players reach level 5. Apparently, it has been designed to help players reach level 5 easily. While Feng Bujue was speaking, he came to the closet and opened it to check the contents inside. After they completed the new player tutorial, hotshots would play this training mode only once. Perhaps they would skip this training mode and start the single-player survival mode directly, because those sort of players have definitely read the instructions before. They know that the reward of the training mode, which is only EXP, is far behind that of the survival mode. Feng Bujue found an unopened pack of syringes in the closet. After taking a look at the properties, he put it directly in his bag. Seems like the rewards of the training mode are worse than that of the new player tutorial. I think the difficulty level should be the same with the tutorial. If the players are not frightened too much, they have to cut the connection. Even if they can't solve the riddle, they can still pass the scenario. He was actually bending over, sniffing the broken jar. In fact, we don't need to check every room. We just need to chase after that shadow to continue our game. It would take us 20 minutes max and several punches and kicks that will definitely drain our survival value, then we could finish the scenario. So why did you enter the room? Wang Tanzi asked. I told you there were two options. You didn't want to hear all and you have chosen the second one. Feng Bujue picked up some sheets of paper on the ground, then brought them to the light to read. The second option is to solve the puzzle. Hey, you've just said that. I said we don't need to solve the puzzle to pass the scenario, but I didn't say that we won't do it, Feng Bujue added. Even if we could solve the riddle, we wouldn't receive any extra points for skill value. He continued to study those sheets, his face unchanged. But solving the puzzle brings us an advantage, which is reducing the difficulty level. In simple words, we will use our brain to reduce the physical power needed to complete the scenario. While saying, he held up a paper sheet, gave it to Wang Tanzi, then said, take a look, what is it? This is. Wang Tanzi took the sheet. After studying it for a few seconds, he said, medical records. Name, unidentified patient's medical records. Type, related to the plot. Function, unknown. Remarks, many contents on this sheet are covered by blood stains. Your job, buddy. Feng Bujue held up the rest of paper sheets in his hand. I'll take care of these. Wang Tanzi just glared at it, and he immediately felt his scalp tingling since the top sheet in Feng Bujue's hands had a bizarre human face drawn on it. Two of them came to a spot on the corridor where the light was shining on. They stayed there and read the material for several minutes. Wang Tanzi read the sheet carefully. There were many blood stains on the medical records, so he had to guess the contents at some points. At the same time, Feng Bujue was cursory, skimming through those drawings. Quickly. He was so addicted to reading. His reading pace was fast enough, moreover, his memory, understanding, and reasoning were pretty effective. Anyway, the drawings on those sheets couldn't scare him. To Feng Bujue, they were like illustrations in magazines. Are you done? Feng Bujue was the first one who asked. Wang Tanzi still glued his eyes on the medical records. He contemplated for a while, then answered, male, 13 years old, still a kid. Feng Bujue caressed his chin. Oh, member of the Young Pioneers. 1. It's impossible to know how his brain works. Oh. He has leukemia and have been hospitalized for quite a long time. However, Wang Tanzi dropped the medical records. According to his medical records, his days are running out. He lifted his head, raking his eyes to the other end of the corridor. He may have turned to a ghost now. Feng Bujue said, not sure. There are 3 doors here. We have just entered the first one, which perhaps is the little boy's patient room. However, we are not sure if that shadow belongs to him. He handed the paper sheets he was holding to Wang Tanzi. You don't need to read it, just check the properties. After having paused for 1 second, he continued, there are 6 different portraits on these sheets, numbered at the corner. Name, Portrait Sketch X6PCS. Remarks, apparently, these portraits were drawn by only one person. They can be piled up or separated. When they are piled up, they are considered as only one item? I'm getting more confused, said Wang Tanzi. Feng Bujue nodded. It's okay. Because the clues to solve the puzzle are not enough. Then, he walked to the second room. Besides, I have a hypothesis. This is also the reason why I want to complete the scenario after I solve the puzzle. While pushing open the door of the second room, he added, I believe that there is at least one real piece of equipment in these 3 rooms. 1. Young Pioneers is a mass youth organization for children aged 6 to 14 in the People's Republic of China. The Young Pioneers of China is run by the Communist Youth League, an organization of older youth that comes under the Communist Party of China. The Young Pioneers of China is similar to pioneer movements that exist or existed in many communist countries around the world. Here, Feng Bujue wanted to say that the little boy is in the age range where he should be a member of the Young Pioneers. Chapter 7 The Abandoned Hospital 3. The objects inside the second room were even more eccentric than that of the first room. Countless portraits had covered the entire place, from the 4 walls to the ceiling. The room was almost empty, but the drawings were everywhere. Only a lone safe stood in the middle of the room. Seems this puzzle is quite clear now. Feng Bujue walked towards the safe, then squatted down to take a closer look. This is just the training mode, and they have considered the case when players can't think thoroughly because of being too frightened. He spoke as if this difficulty level was too low for him. Wang Tanzi followed him. At this moment, he felt that those faces on the walls were as peppy as real ones. There were no identical faces there. This gave him the feeling of being scanned over and over by hundreds of pairs of eyes. Just that alone was enough to give him goosebumps. Juji, can't we just bring the safe outside and check it? Wang Tanzi asked. Just a couple minutes and I'm done with it. Feng Bujue stood up, put those sketches in front of him, then started to study the portraits on the walls. When I came close to the safe, the system reminded me that it needed a password of 6 digits to open the safe. His eyes stopped at some place. Oh, there. He walked to the wall and cocked his head to the left. This room has a lot of faces drawn on the wall just to mess with the player's vision. He then pointed to the wall. You see, there are 6 faces aligned in a diagonal line. They look exactly like those sketches we have. He started to compare those drawings, which were too scary to look at directly, from left to right and from top to bottom. He was muttering the numbers written on the bottom corner of the sheets while eyeing them: 4, 1, 6, 3, 5, 2. Feng Bujue came to the safe and entered the password. If you just searched through the first room by opening the door and through a quick glance, you couldn't have found the clues from the drawings. Then, of course, you wouldn't have been able to find the password to open the safe in the second room as well. He turned around to look at those 6 faces on the wall. In fact, the answer has been revealed where the light shone most clearly when we had opened the door. But, even if we didn't have the sketches, even though we both knew that the password would be in this room, we still wouldn't be able to find it. At that time, the safe was opened. There were 2 items inside, including a key and a card. Wrong moves, Feng Bujue said after he had checked out the 2 items' properties. What? Perhaps Wang Tanzi was affected by Feng Bujue's deliberateness, so he had calmed down. His fear value was now 3%. Soon, we have to use the key. And this. Feng Bujue handed the card to Wang Tanzi. Name: Exploding God Fist. Skill cards: attributes, active skill, disappear after being used twice. Type: fighting. Effects: explode after hitting the target, giving fire attribute damage. Consumption: 50 points of physical value. Usage condition: fighting specialty level F. Remarks: boom. I thought that the rewards would be some equipment. Turns out it is only a skill, Feng Bujue said. First, not to mention the equipment or skills, how did you know there would be hidden rewards? Wang Tanzi asked. Isn't it obvious? Although this game mode doesn't offer players anything besides EXP, to ensure fair play, the scenario allows players to complete the round in 2 ways, Feng Bujue explained. Now we are following the way in which we are going to solve the puzzle and not to use the power to kill someone. Holding the key in his hand, he led Wang Tanzi out of the second room. If players don't want to solve the puzzle, they have to overcome their fear to encounter the enemy. If their fighting capabilities are effective, they can improve their specialties. When their level and fighting specialty are improved, they can receive skill value during the round. Meanwhile, we are focusing on the general progress of the game, not just only on improving our fighting specialty. If we can solve the puzzle, we can decrease the level of difficulty, reduce the unnecessary fights, and we can make the plot better. Players who follow this way will be left behind with their low specialties. Thus, the system would do something to make it up for them. The skill value awarded would be more than regular. At this point, Wang Tanzi had understood. He then continued Feng Bujue's flow. Training mode wouldn't offer skill value, thus, if players chose to solve the puzzle, they will be rewarded with items. Exactly. Feng Bujue tried to pull the third door. It was just like what he had assumed. The door was locked. He immediately used the key to open the door, and once it was opened, the key disappeared. The third room was clean. There was a table placed against the wall, and a notebook laid on top of it. Hey, how many slots of the specialties have you unlocked? Feng Bujue asked while picking up the notebook. My fighting and common specialties are both ranked F. How about yours? I have just unlocked the common dot. Feng Bujue started to open the notebook. Your fighting specialty has been unlocked in which circumstances? In the new player tutorial, something that looked like a monkey had attacked me. After I had killed it, the system notified that I had unlocked the fighting specialty ranked level F, Wang Tanzi recalled, but the common specialty has appeared after the scenario has ended. Oh, that's it? We just need to find the chances to unlock all 6 slots of the specialties then, Feng Bujue said while musing. He turned to ask Wang Tanzi, your skill bar is unlocked now after you got the skill, right? You are qualified, just take that skill card. Maybe we have to use it soon. That was the first time Feng Bujue picked up a skill card. When he was reading the properties, the system reminded him that his skill bar had been unlocked. The skill bar in Thriller Paradise only had 12 slots. Players could adjust them before they entered the scenario. This meant no matter how many skills their character has, once they enter the scenario, they could only equip themselves with 12 skills max. Moreover, the skill cards they have installed in their skill bar, even if they have never been used before, are locked with their character, unable to be exchanged. If players found a skill card and they wanted to sell it, they could only put it into the bag, not the skill bar. Once the card has been installed, the card would disappear while the skill would be recorded as the player's data and displayed on their menu. There was another rule which said that when the skill card was yet to be used, it could only be brought out of the scenario, not the opposite way. This was to prevent players to have themselves equipped with a full set of 12 skills, but still carrying many skill cards in their bags as they enter the scenario. There was an exception. If players picked up a new skill card in the scenario, they could learn it on the spot. In case their skill bar was full, they could replace one of their old skills with that new skill. This required them to return to the login space to do the replacement. It has appeared, but why can we only use it twice? Wang Tanzi didn't understand that. The one who raised this issue obviously hadn't read the game's introduction. Feng Bujue answered him while passionately reading the notebook in his hand, the attributes of the skill are the most important features. Skills are divided into active and passive skills. Active skills consist of 3 types, including permanent possession, time limit possession, and consumed with times of usage. Passive skills have just 2 types, which are permanent possession and time limit possession. After contemplating for a few seconds, he added, your card is a consumed with times of usage 1. After using it twice, it will disappear. I got a feeling that they are just teasing us. Although he had that comment, he still installed the skill as Feng Bujue's request. No, it's reasonable, Feng Bujue said, with your current physical value, when it's full, you can only punch twice. In such circumstances, the plot of this scenario would not require the third punch. Even no punch is needed. He hesitated for a while, then continued, if it were a permanent or a time limit one, the conditions and the consumption wouldn't be that low. Perhaps it would require higher fighting specialty and cost you much physical value. If not, this skill would be discounted. For example, if there were a level 50 player with shooting specialty that equipped himself with a permanent wrestling skill, if that skill just required grade F to activate and only consume 50 points of physical value, then this meant he could use the skill for 100 times continuously, isn't it? Wang Tanzi thought it was quite reasonable. Yeah, it is. And, if they give me a skill that requires fighting skill grade F, but the physical value consumption would be 101 points, the problem here comes from the game design team. Hey, I need to remind you that the success rate is just 20% for this type of active skill at grade F. Thus, if a low-level player picks up a skill, the chances of successfully using it all depends on karma, Feng Bujue added. Isn't that fraudulent? That's why I wanted to search for equipment. I've checked the home page. They've just released the closed beta version this morning, and there are instructions in the afternoon. Some guys who reached level 10 said on the forum that when the character is ranked at low levels, equipment is the best. Equipment ranked excellent and above are extremely rare. Feng Bujue was doing 2 tasks at the same time. After a little bit of chatting, he had almost finished the notebook. Perhaps it's easy to get to level 10. If players have good equipment, they can survive the situation without solving the puzzles. Just use violence to finish the scenario, then the game will not reward good equipment for lower levels. He closed the notebook. After passing level 10, low-level excellent equipment will become bland food, but it's a waste if we dump them. Currently, they haven't opened shops yet, putting them in our bags just wastes our limited room. Feng Bujue was startled while talking. Oops, wrong calculation. What? Wang Tanzi felt tense in an instant. He raised the fruit knife and turned back to look at the corridor outside the door. He didn't see anything else except those bloody footprints on the wall. And, later on, if we need to open the chests, you should do it. I will tell you the password or how to open it, said Feng Bujue. Beep, I thought you wanted to tell something else, Wang Tanzi continued. That karma thing is nonsense, just about probabilities. Wouldn't it be rubbish if you opened it? I really want to go outside, pick up a stone and smash it on your head. All right, my bad. Feng Bujue put the notebook into his bag then said, move. I will tell you the plot while we are walking. Chapter 8 The Abandoned Hospital 4 January 10th. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe what this child could do. The spoon was hovering, and he could bend it as he pleased. January 13th. He said that someone was watching him. Many of them. He was terrified. January 16th. He seemed not to feel fear anymore. Sometimes he smiled, sometimes he kept quiet. January 17th. All tests showed that he was normal. None of us, a group of 6, could explain what was happening to this child. January 19th. He started to draw. His parents told us that he had never shown his talents in arts before, however, he was able to draw realistic portraits. January 22nd. He kept asking for papers and pencils. He just drew and drew, not stopping to eat or sleep. He only sketched portraits. Normal faces now turned into freakish and weird ones. January 25th. Bloody faces appeared on the walls. We found a carcass of a sparrow on his bed, but his hands were all clean. This got me worried and I recalled the spoon. January 26th. All the windows on the wall had disappeared, leaving a windproof blank wall. Last night, the security camera recorded a shadow. I don't know whom I should ask to help us. Police. They will think that I'm crazy. And arrest me soon. January 30th. Richard went missing. The 5 of us are worried. More portraits appeared on the walls. This time, we couldn't find. I don't know. Richard's corpse. January 31st. I have to leave this place. I should apply to leave. Until this child passes away due to his sickness, no. I'd better resign. February 1st. I don't think I could escape. I can't find the way out of this building. If anyone read this notebook, remember my words. He's wary of. This line was covered with blood stain. If you have a chance, kill him. Don't hesitate. If not, the dead one will be you. Feng Bujue and Wang Tanzi made a turn at the corner. The corridor ahead of them was spacious, but there was no door this time, just snow-white wall on both sides. After they walking for dozens of meters, there appeared a crossroad. They were cautiously walking forward. After thinking about the contents of the notebook, Feng Bujue told the story again. He had tried to make it less scary, but little Tan's face was still pale, and he had goosebumps all over him. What we are about to face is not a ghost. It's just a child, who has suffered from psychic pollution, and the superpowers which he has acquired after a bout of serious illness, Feng Bujue concluded. At least it's the plot of this scenario. What is useful from this information? Wang Tanzi's voice showed that he was bearing massive pressure. First, psychologically, I think your fear would be reduced when you know the mob is a human, Feng Bujue answered, second, the true meaning is we know that it has a physical body and we can salvage it. Hey, did you think that the guy who wrote the diary and the other victims in this scenario haven't tried that? Wang Tanzi panicked. They were more than two people, right? Did they know the exploding god fist? Feng Bujue snapped. Brother Ju, I'm still confused. If we couldn't find the skill or if our fighting specialty hadn't been unlocked, and we didn't choose to answer the puzzle, what would it be like? Then we have to make a choice when we meet it, Feng Bujue asked himself, should we run or fight against it recklessly? He had mused for a few seconds then continued, if we hadn't solved the puzzle, we would base on the actual situation when we meet it. For example, how much life we would lose. When we are threatened by fear or death, the difficulty will increase. However, when we got the plot, we won't need to make contact with it to know that we have to run away since our fighting abilities are trash. It would probably screw us over big time. Then, I think among the options to finish the scenario, there should be a running away one. However, considering our dangerous situation right now, isn't it the same with the option that we can't solve the puzzle, said Wang Tanzi. Nope. It's different. At least, you got a skill in the second room. In the third room, we also know its weakness. Then, no matter if we choose to kill it now or to run away to complete the scenario, the chance of success is much improved. First, not to mention my skill, which is 20% successful, didn't you said that the line related to its weakness was covered with bloodstains? Well, the system has planned a simple chain of logic. With the notes from the diary and the analysis of that child's behaviors, except the other bullshit details which are to mess up your mind, the contents of the notebook are as clear as the lost tapes. 1. While they were discussing, they made another turn. A spacious lobby appeared in front of them. The ceiling there was much higher than that of the corridor. The lighting system was good, but its walls also didn't have doors or windows. January 16, telekinesis, using thoughts to move objects. January 19, innate superpower awakened. January 25, able to use his thoughts to affect living objects. January 30, able to deal with bigger objects, humans. February 1, slaughter like a demon. Feng Bujue analyzed in an extremely calm manner that was almost icy cold. Related to his weakness, it is in the paragraph of January 26. Same with what we have here. He paused. For a moment then continued, he is afraid of sunlight. But it's very. Feng Bujue interrupted him even before he was able to say the word bright. It's the sunlight, not the artificial light, Feng Bujue explained. When we have entered the first room, which looks like a patient room, I could feel something was abnormal. Besides the scent of fresh blood, the patient room and the corridor don't have windows. It doesn't suit the basic architecture rules. At that time, I doubted that this building was underground. Then, I found that the second and the third rooms also doesn't have any window. Why is that? Feng Bujue paused for a while. I can understand the strange layout of these rooms, because, as in the plot, this is a hospital. Maybe it's because of the twisted space that we could see such scenes after we opened the doors. However, after reading the notebook, I understood that this is a hint. He pointed to the light above his head. In fact, those lights are also a hint. He's afraid of sunlight, but why does he need light? There's nothing besides two reasons. First, he needs light to move because he is blind in the dark, just like us. Second, he is wary of the sunlight and the darkness. Because, in the dark, there's something staring at him. All of a sudden, the little boy's laughter echoed again, not far from them this time. Now, they knew that the source of